today on this rather warm afternoon here. My name is Heather McTier-Tony. I am the Executive Director for Beyond Petrochemicals campaign. It is a Bloomberg Philanthropies initiative, and we are so excited here today. Our Beyond Petrochemical campaign is to stop the expansion of 120 petrochemical facilities in the United States of America. And we are very excited to be here to have this press conference today. I'd like to thank Beyond Plastics for bringing Beyond Petrochemicals, Plastic Free Future, River Valley Organizing, Moms Clean Air Force, Greenpeace, Hop Caucus, and residents of East Palestine to the steps of EPA to deliver over 27,000 signed petitions calling for toxic vinyl chloride to be banned. Let's give that a round of applause. And it goes without saying, it's a little warm out here today, and you can thank some of the plastic and chemical production for that, because chemical production actually adds to global climate emissions. In fact, the petrochemical industry is right now responsible for 10% of global climate emissions, and that's only growing. So addressing this is helping us to try to keep things cooler. Try as you may. If you need a fan a little bit, it's all right. We recognize how warm it is, but this is also part of why we're out here today. Vinyl chloride is a known human carcinogen and petrochemical, and it's used mostly for making PVC plastic. It can cause liver damage as well as cancer in the liver, brain, lungs, and blood. And as the world is transitioning towards clean, renewable energy, the oil and gas industry is trying to figure out where they fit in. And they're putting their emphasis towards petrochemicals in order to keep a polluting industry profitable. And all of this is happening while impacting the most vulnerable among us, the most vulnerable communities, particularly situated in the Ohio River Valley region, the south of Louisiana, a place a lot of folks know as Cancer Alley, but we're going to rename that to like Climate Advocacy Alley. And also into the Houston Shipping Channel and South Texas area. But we're not going to allow that to continue to create sacrifice zones in places where we know communities want and need and deserve a clean, reliable future. That's why we're here today to speak with Administrator Freedhoff to demand better regulations. Now, we are approaching 6 months between the East Palestine train derailment and the explosive burn-off of 100,000 gallons of vinyl chloride and today. It was February 3rd that took place, and that accident was a chilling warning that we must act now to ban petrochemicals like vinyl chloride and keep communities safe from cancer, from known carcinogens, and really move towards what we know is a reliable, sustainable, clean future. I want to introduce to you now someone very special, someone who is coming not only from this space, but also, like myself, is a parent and who's concerned about the future of their community. Daniel Winston is co-executive director of River Valley Organizing in East Palestine, Ohio. He lives 17 miles away from that February 3rd incident, and his organization is working to empower those who are most affected by issues of environmental injustice, and they work for power building solutions, particularly in communities of color and vulnerable populations. Daniel, come on up. Please give him a round of applause.
I just want to say thank you for everyone coming out. This is important. As a dad, my 7-year-old is right here. His name is David. This is something that's very important to me because if we don't fight this now, then my son is going to fight this in his future. And if he doesn't get to fight this in his future, then my grandchildren are going to have to fight this and keep going through this. My name is Daniel Winston. I am the co-executive director of River Valley Organizing out of East Ohio, where we organize around environmental degradation. I tell people all the time that in the Ohio Valley region, environmental degradation is like apple pie to America. It's just who we are because of how it's set up and what they put us through. We have tons of, gas and oil places. We have an incinerator that is hurting people. And then just recently, like was just said by Heather, the East Palestine train derailment happened, and they decided to control burn 5 train cars with vinyl chloride in it. We just found out almost a month ago that this was not needed. This did not have to be done. They did not have to burn these this way. This could have been done a different way, but we are standing at the steps of the EPA, but EPA allowed Norfolk Southern to do this for expediency. So the tracks can be opened back up so they can get their profit back up to where it needed to be. And now a community and the surrounding area is now affected by this in a way that people are still getting sick today. And so what does that mean? That means when they blew that up, a town like mine that's about 14, 15, 17 miles away from East Palestine, that plume went over some of these towns. My son, our water was contaminated for a part of that time, and we had to drink bottled water, unfortunately, because we could not trust our village water. That should not be so. So we're here today for one reason and one reason only, to tell the EPA that it's time now. Like, we can't wait to ban vinyl chloride. You can't slow walk this. This can't be something that steps upon steps upon steps. The livelihood of Americans, the livelihood of American taxpayers, the livelihood of people who don't pay taxes but live in this great country are dependent on the EPA doing their job and banning things that are giving people cancer, that are making people sick, that children are losing their parents, that people are having to bury people that should never be buried right now. But today we're here as a group, a collective group of individuals and organizations to say that we will not stand for this and that we've come together to fight this. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I think you can already tell the passion is centered around communities, and we know that this is one of the most important aspects, and that's why I'm excited to bring up Alameda Cooper. Alameda is with Moms Clean Air Force, the National Director for Health, and she is not just a mom, and I'm a mom, so there is no offense to moms, that Alameda is also an attorney, she's an advocate, she's an expert, and so she brings all of that collectively to this role. Alameda, could you come on up for Moms Clean Air Force? And spell your name for us, Alameda.
Okay, good morning. My name is Almeta Cooper, A-L-M-E-T-A, Cooper, C-O-O-P-E-R. I'm the National Manager for Health Equity at Moms Clean Air Force. Moms is a national organization of 1.5 million dads, moms, and caregivers who are united in protecting clean air and children's health. As the National Manager for Health Equity and as an African American woman, I'm deeply concerned about implementing common sense solutions to alleviate the disproportionate environmental and health harms on Black, brown, and low-wealth communities. Vinyl chloride, a dangerous pollutant, is produced, processed, transported, landfilled, and incinerated in these communities, which are some of the most underserved and overburdened communities in our nation. Environmental justice must be more than just words. We must assure that there is meaningful action taken to protect these vulnerable communities. Moms Clean Air Force is urging the Environmental Protection Agency to exercise its regulatory authority under the nation's Chemical Safety Act, the Toxic Substance Control Act, to ban vinyl chloride without further delay. Vinyl chloride is dangerous for human health and for children even more. Vinyl chloride is used to make PV plastic and is widely used to make many common products such as plumbing, pipes, floor coverings, shower curtains, and children's toys. But there are safer alternatives available. Vinyl chloride is toxic, extremely flammable, and potentially explosive. My high school chemistry lab teacher would have said that this is a trifecta of danger for human health. Vinyl chloride can be harmful through short-term or long-term exposures. The EPA's fact sheet, based on the findings of the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease, explains that vinyl chloride's acute immediate effects as well as its longer-term effects. Acute or short-term exposure to high levels of vinyl chloride causes nose and throat irritation, coughing, shortness of breath, eye irritation, headaches, dizziness. Exposure to extremely high doses can even be fatal. Long-term or chronic exposure through inhalation and oral exposure include liver disease and cancers, including liver cancer, leukemia, lymphoma, brain and lung cancers. Vinyl chloride is particularly insidious, not only because it is a dangerous chemical on its own, but also when vinyl chloride is on fire, even more hazardous chemicals are released, including dioxins and other cancer-causing substances or carcinogens. Dioxins are among the most toxic chemicals on this planet, and they are especially harmful for children whose small bodies are still developing. Vinyl chloride can contaminate the air we breathe and the water we drink. This explosive and toxic chemical puts innocent lives in danger in their homes, schools, and playgrounds. Vinyl chloride is often manufactured or incinerated in neighborhoods such as those located in Louisiana, Texas, and Kentucky, which are already overburdened by pollution and the long-term impact of discriminatory practices such as redlining. It is unfair and unjust that these communities of color and low-wealth communities bear the health risk of producing PVC plastic. In addition to the horrors of vinyl chloride disasters related to its productions in communities like Mossville, Louisiana, alarmingly, there is inadequate regulation of the potential danger to unsuspecting neighborhoods when vinyl chloride is transported across the country, resulting in dangers such as the train derailments in February 2023 in East Palestine, Ohio, and in Paulsboro, New Jersey in 2012. In closing, vinyl chloride is a dangerous chemical that doesn't belong in our homes or in our communities. It is used in cosmetics, household paints, and air fresheners, which has been prohibited for decades. Now is the time to stop using this toxic substance in any form. We urge the EPA to use the full extent of its regulatory authority to end the use of vinyl chloride. A first step is to add vinyl chloride to the priority list of chemicals to be reviewed under the 2016 Toxic Substances Control Act amendments. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Almita. One of the first groups that was on the ground in East Palestine immediately following the train derailment was Hop Caucus. I'm pleased to introduce Chris Walton, who is the Democratic Policy Director of Hop Caucus. He previously served as chair of the Democratic Party of Milwaukee County and worked in the office of the mayor of the city of Milwaukee as the policy organizing manager for Black AIDS Institute. Chris?
Hello everybody, my name is Chris Walton, C-H-R-I-S-W-A-L-T-O-N. Policy Director for the Hip Hop Caucus, and I'm here today to first introduce who the Hip Hop Caucus is. The Hip Hop Caucus is a 21st century organization that has been focused on 4 pillars: economic justice, environmental justice, human and civil rights, as well as democracy reforms such as voting rights. And we have also been mostly focused on environmental justice since its inception, seeing especially from the failures of the government when it came to Hurricane Katrina down in New Orleans. This is the 3rd time this year that someone from the Hip Hop Caucus has been involved and engaged reaching out to the EPA to make sure they know how important these environmental justice issues are, especially for this administration. Our overall message today is that the EPA should use its existing authority to severely curb, if not cease, the production and transportation of vinyl chloride. Recognizing that it is releasing into the air and water, it is a significant health hazard. The EPA has already declared vinyl chloride a carcinogen. Why wait? If we know this is a carcinogen, ban it. Make sure it does not go into our waters and our foods and into our air. The Hip Hop Caucus is a partner in the Beyond Chemical Petrochemical campaign. And we are standing strong and proud to be here to help deliver over 27,000 petition signatures to ban vinyl chloride. Because when it really comes down to it, vinyl chloride isn't running through the richest areas of this country. It's running through the lower income areas of this country. Nearly 400,000 people in this country are directly impacted by transportation of vinyl chloride through these communities. 63% of those people are people of color or lower income people. We have to ban vinyl chloride. Full stop.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Chris. Now I want to bring up someone I've known for quite a few years and had the pleasure of working with. Judith Inc. is founder and president of Beyond Plastics and is a professor at Bennington College. Prior to that, she was appointed by President Obama to serve as regional administrator for EPA in Region 2. And I've known her from that close since we had an opportunity to serve together as regional administrators. And I have always been impressed by Judith's knowledge and passion for pushing back against plastics. She previously was Deputy Secretary for Environment in the New York Governor's Office, and she's going to discuss the vinyl chloride health concerns and what EPA can do to prevent continued risk.
Okay, this is a really important day. We are dead serious about convincing EPA to ban vinyl chloride. 27,570 people from all over the country signed this petition. We're not delivering it through paper because we don't want to hurt the trees, but we really need EPA to take this seriously. Over 99% of vinyl chloride is used to make PVC, polyvinyl chloride plastic. PVC is the poison plastic. There are non-plastic alternatives for the uses. PVC is used for pipes to deliver our drinking water. PVC is used in our children's toys. You remember this is the iconic rubber ducky probably floating around your kid's bathtub. We had one in our house. My kid chewed on an iconic rubber ducky. This is a PVC rubber ducky. We can have healthy children's toys that does not include PVC. PVC is used for consumer packaging, and it's also used for building products, so like vinyl siding. So if a house catches on fire, then firefighters are at risk when vinyl chloride catches fire. Vinyl chloride was designated a carcinogen in 1974. I want the guy in the truck to hear this. 1974. That same year, the EPA very wisely banned the use of vinyl chloride for products like hairspray. Remember that? Refrigerants, cosmetics, and drugs. Do the math with me. That was 49 years ago. Since then, this plastic has been banned in Canada, Spain, South Korea, and the Czech Republic. Even private companies acknowledge the problem. There is an organization called the U.S. Plastics Pact, which involves many large companies. They've announced that they're going to voluntarily stop using PVC plastic for packaging by 2025. And these are big companies like Target and Walmart and Nestle. Now, what's happening in the petrochemical area is more and more fossil fuel companies are turning to plastic production. So we're going to see more and more chemicals like vinyl chloride moving on our nation's very rickety rail system. We cannot have another community go through what East Palestine has gone through in the last 6 months. Vinyl chloride, you know, is a human carcinogen. That usually means if you are unfortunate enough to get cancer, it doesn't show up for 20 or 30 years, but exposure to vinyl chloride can cause headaches, dizziness, difficulty breathing. Our friends from East Palestine and Pennsylvania can probably confirm those are some of the symptoms that local residents experience there. So that's our goal. How can EPA do this? Good news. EPA has the legal authority under the Toxic Substances Control Act to ban chemicals. Federal law lays out a 6-year process that EPA can undertake to do this. EPA does not need a new law to do what all of us today are asking them to do. In fact, EPA has a document, it's very important, called the TSCA Work Plan for Chemical Assessments. This was updated in 2014, and it includes vinyl chloride as one of the chemicals that should be considered for action. We need EPA to do the risk assessment and start that process. The companies that make vinyl chloride have known about the problems for over 50 years. Just like the fossil fuel industry knew that greenhouse gases caused climate change, big chemical companies knew about the dangers of vinyl chloride. This has been well documented, including in a magazine called Energy and Technology. Their issue just last month asked the really fundamental question: is it time to ban PVC? We are here today to answer for the EPA. The answer is yes.
Thanks so much, Judith. You know, we started this press conference hearing directly from impacted people and families from East Palestine. And our final speaker today is also coming directly from impacted family and community in East Palestine. Jessica Conrad is a resident of East Palestine and the External Partnerships Director for the Unity Council. And she has become a fierce advocate for health in her community following the Ohio train derailment. Please join me in welcoming Jessica Conrad, as well as she prepares to deliver the petitions to the EPA. Conard, I apologize, Conard, and let's make sure that we spell that correctly. It's C-O-N-A-R-D, correct?
Got it.
Thank you. Jessica Conard.
Thank you, I appreciate that. My name is Jess Conard. I am a lifetime resident of East Palestine, Ohio. I live approximately 2.5 miles from the derailment site. There was a train on February 3rd that went through my backyard carrying 700,000 gallons of toxic vinyl chloride, and it derailed. 60 seconds sooner, it would have been in my backyard. The train was on fire long before it got to me. We were not notified. So prior to February 3rd, I was a speech therapist. I worked from home, and I got to spend time with my family. And since February 3rd, I have been a fierce advocate for my community. Yes, by choice, but the groups that are standing behind me have been incredibly supportive from day one. I have connections with all of them, and I cannot say the same about my government or the entities that have supposedly been supporting us this time. The Ohio train derailment is not a comeback story. It's a very grim warning. It's about an industry that values profit over human lives and environment, and about a regulatory system that has failed to keep these industries in check. What most Americans don't realize is the connection between this disaster and the plastics industry. The production of plastics depends on transporting harmful chemicals like vinyl chloride, which is the key ingredient in the manufacture of PVC plastics. We have an insatiable demand in this country that has driven the need for increased transport of these hazardous substances, placing communities like mine at risk every single day. This is a public health risk for everyone. And while company profits soar, our communities are left to grapple with the aftermath of their negligence. Again, my community learned this the hard way. Our town witnessed the callousness that the rail industry is capable of when they laid the tracks over the poisoned soil after one day after releasing 116,000 gallons of vinyl chloride into the soil. A decision we are now learning was not necessary. The fact that the mass production of plastics necessitates such hazardous practices should not be ignored. My home, like I said, is just outside of the shockingly small evacuation zone. On February 6th, I watched from my porch as a mushroom cloud quickly expanded and crept over the place that grew me. Our children's classes were suddenly canceled for a week, and the gymnasium became a temporary homeless shelter. The sweet, thick chemical and chlorine smells left an unwanted film in my nose and mouth. Those toxic smells are still in my town 6 months later. The immediate and long-term safety and welfare of my community is at risk because of vinyl chloride. We are here today because it is time for vinyl chloride to be banned. Thank you.
Please spell your name one more time.
Jessconard.
And so we do have a representative from EPA.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Lonnie.
Hi.
Hi, Jess. Nice to meet you.
I'm Lonnie Cortez, Associate Administrator for Public Engagement at EPA in the Administrator's Office. I'm also joined by my colleagues. Jenny Romer is the Deputy Assistant Administrator for Pollution Prevention, and there's some chemical safety and pollution prevention. So thank you for being here today, and we appreciate hearing from you, and we will be taking this petition back to our colleagues in senior leadership, including Assistant Administrator Freedhoff.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys being here. This is incredibly supportive. My community is hurting because of this chemical. There are stationary communities that this hurts all the time. It's time. Let's start the process.
Thank you. We'll now open up for questions from the press. If you have any questions, if you'll please raise your hand and tell us what outlet you're from, as well as spelling that for us, and then we'll do our best to direct it to the best entity to respond. Yes, sir.
Dean Scott from Bloomberg.
Dave?
Dean Scott from Bloomberg.
Dean Scott from Bloomberg, yes.
So you were speaking earlier about how so little action has been done historically on this issue, even though it's been recognized. So why isn't the Biden administration, or is it in some way showing some sense of urgency, and you're just hoping to push this along? Or do you feel like there's valid criticisms of this administration and the pace it's setting to resolve this issue?
So Judith, do you want to take that?
Sure. I think we have not seen serious attention to this issue because of the immense political strength of the chemical industry. And they have influence no matter who is president. But we expect President Biden and Vice President Harris to take this issue more seriously. All they need to do is read the EPA documents. This TSCA work plan that I referenced says exposure criteria to prompt action is met with vinyl chloride if it's present in drinking water. EPA checked yes. Present in indoor environments, present in surface water, present in ambient air, groundwater, and soil. High recorded releases to the environment. That was written before East Palestine. So we are calling on EPA with direction from President Biden to finally take action. If one positive thing can come out of the toxic train derailment in East Palestine, and I would argue nothing positive has come out of it so far, just a lot of damage and hurt in these communities. If one positive thing could come of this, it would be for the Biden administration to use their existing legal authority to start the process to ban vinyl chloride.
Thank you. Another question? Let me go here and then here. Yes, sir. You said the outlet.
Hi. Yes, E&E News, Lamar Johnson. Given that the process takes 6 years, you delivered the petition today. What makes this a success? Like, what does that look like for you all as the process starts? And what is the time?
I'll start that and then hand off to Judith. You know, because one of the things I think that she said we should really put a point in is that this was on the list back in 2014, and so 6 years even from that is 2020. So the fact that we're continuing to raise awareness about these issues coming from a perspective of expertise and working in this space, I think not only is important, but it shows what happens when you don't do it. The reason that we have an East Palestine today can be prevented, and we have to continue acting to ensure that we don't continue seeing this in the future. It's one of the reasons why stopping the expansion of petrochemical facilities and chemicals like vinyl chloride is so critical for awareness around EPA today.
Thank you. The only other thing I would add is at 2 o'clock today, we all are meeting with Assistant Administrator Freedhoff, who has the legal authority to start this evaluation process. I don't need to tell all of you today, we are in a climate crisis. This has been a horrendous summer around the globe. The production of petrochemicals contributes to the climate crisis, and then the toxic exposure from the production, use, transportation, and use of vinyl chloride through PVC plastic should instill a sense of urgency. So what success looks like for us is I would prefer that vinyl chloride be banned tomorrow. EPA doesn't have the legal authority to do that. They do have the legal authority to start, so they need to start tomorrow the process of banning this highly toxic chemical. And we're grateful that EPA came out with a team to accept the petition. And this afternoon at 2 o'clock, we need to hear their agenda for action. This can't be just put aside. The people of East Palestine deserve so much better.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Sure. Hi, so I'm Steve Fullerton with Plastic Students. My question, following up on the previous question, and really directed, I guess, to Judith. You said you were also from the EPA?
Yes.
Okay. So, you know, since the 2014 risk assessment document Judith referred to, the EPA has, I guess, put about 30 of those chemicals on the priority list. So, in your opinion, what are they missing about vinyl chloride? Can you talk more about that?
Start that one, and I can just follow you up.
And Judith, as loud as possible.
Sure. So thousands of chemicals are used in commerce. Just over 100 are in this document for assessment. I think EPA has been missing a sense of urgency. EPA scientists know how toxic this is. East Palestine is Exhibit A as to why EPA needs to have a sense of urgency. They need to keep going with the 30 chemicals that they're looking at. I'm not arguing that they take asbestos, for instance, off their list, but they need to add vinyl chloride. EPA definitely needs more staff. EPA definitely needs more resources. But what EPA mostly needs is political courage to stand up to the chemical industry and make sure no one goes through what the people of East Palestine went through 6 months ago, and I would add, are still going through today.
I think each and every one of these organizations here was really working significantly hard in the prior administration just to maintain what we had already been able to do. And so we should also recognize that this administration is playing catch up a bit, but we want to continue to push and ensure that they do maintain the courage and they do maintain the urgency to move on these chemicals to make sure that vinyl chloride, again, is at the top of the list and recognizing what's happening in communities around the country today. Any more? We can take one more question. And I want to just point out a couple of press people for the organization. So if you have any additional questions, Elise Brooks is here with Beyond Petrochemicals. Sasha Tenenbaum is here with Mom's Clean Air Force. Melissa, tell me your last name. Valiant, thank you, is here with Beyond Plastics. Please reach out to them if you have any additional questions. We are more than happy to answer, and thank you for not only making this a priority today, but continuing to elevate it in your news outlets, because we have to make sure we keep the information out in front of the public and we keep having these conversations. I just want to end by thanking each and every one of these organizations for coming out. Please join me in giving them a round of applause for coming out and being in the heat but also for being such staunch advocates for this issue. It would not happen if it was not for you. So thank you so much. And this is the end of our press conference.